Today we're going to be talking about something very serious. The end goal of collecting points is to be able to redeem them for travel and incredible trips around the world. But before any of that sexy stuff happens, you first gotta understand one thing, and that's the very serious thing we're talking about today. How does having this many credit cards affect your credit score? Now, last week we talked about how the key to racking up a huge volume of points in a very short time is by taking advantage of credit card sign-up bonuses. And when presented with this fact, it seems like most people have a similar reaction. Isn't that going to affect your credit? Isn't opening and closing credit cards going to be bad for your credit score somehow? Won't that cause your credit score to plummet? Now, if you go out on the street and ask someone how their credit score works, most people will have no idea. Most people seem to think that it's just some sort of mysterious score that's assigned to them. But in reality, there are very specific factors that go into your credit score. In order of decreasing importance, the factors are payment history, which accounts for 35% of your credit score, utilization, which is 30% of your credit score, length of credit history, which is 15%, recent inquiries, which is 10%, and credit mix, which is the final 10%. Let's talk about payment history, which is very simple. Do you pay your bills on time? Payment history accounts for 35% of your credit score alone, and you can make sure that this 35% is absolutely perfect simply by paying all your bills on time. I cannot stress enough how important it is to pay your bills on time. Too many people out there have the wrong idea of what credit cards are supposed to represent. They have all this spending power, they think they're allowed to spend on whatever they want, and they don't have to pay it back immediately. And that's a bad road to go down, because without the financial discipline, you soon end up getting yourself into financial trouble. Always spend within your means, pay off all your bills on time. You won't be paying any interest or unnecessary late fees. You will be earning the rewards on your purchases, and that's the way to come out ahead in this game we play. And it's not just your credit cards either, right? Obviously your mortgage, your car loan, your phone bill, you should be paying every single bill before it's due. Now, one thing I should mention is that just because it's super important to pay your bills on time doesn't mean you should freak out if you miss the deadline by a few days. The credit issuers don't actually start to report the lateness until you're 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days overdue. And that's when it starts to really count against you on your credit file. If you just miss the deadline by a day or two, you might be hit with a few dollars here and there in interest. You might be hit with 20 bucks, 30 bucks in late fees, but it's easy enough to call your bank and say, hey, it was an honest mistake. Could I please get it waived?
American Express.
Yeah, I'm calling about the late fee that was charged on my most recent statement. I think it was an honest mistake. I think I sent the payment over the weekend and it didn't get processed until the Monday, so that's why I missed the deadline. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, bye. Easy peasy. But of course, having said that, you should never rely on the kindness of your issuer, and you should always try to pay every bill on time. Payment history, number one most important factor in your credit score, takes care of 35% of your score all on its own. Factor number two in your credit score is what's known as utilization, or utilization ratio. This accounts for 30% of your overall credit score, and it's basically a measure of how much of your total credit limits you're actually using. Imagine you had a credit card with a $5,000 limit, and your monthly statements were always in the range of $4,500. So you're using up most of your limit. Now, if somebody's looking at this and they're thinking of giving you new credit, it doesn't look very good. because you've been assigned this limit of $5,000, and that's what other issuers have determined is a reasonable amount for you to be spending, and you're running up to that limit every single month. So it seems like you're getting yourself into a situation where if something were to happen to you, you might not be able to pay that full balance back. You're utilizing 90% of your available credit, and that's a very high utilization ratio, which tends to have a negative effect on your credit score. If you want to keep your credit in tip-top shape, it's best to keep your utilization ratios in the range of 5 to 20%. Reasonable amounts that shows that you're not going out there and spending all the credit that's been given to you, and instead you're handling that credit responsibly. Say that there's a month in which you have spent $4,500 on your credit card that has a limit of $5,000. If you go ahead and prepay that balance before the statement closes, then you can bring the utilization down when the statement actually gets reported to the credit bureau. So if you prepaid $3,500 of that $4,500 balance, you would get your statement down to $1,000, which is 20% utilization, a very healthy and respectable amount. So payment history is 35% of your score, utilization is 30%. Together, that's already 65% of your score that's well within your control. And by taking care to ensure your credit score is looking good in both of these departments, you're already making sure that 65% of your credit score is as good as it possibly can be. Your overall credit history length is a factor that counts for 15% of your credit score. This is also known as the average age of accounts. You basically take all your credit accounts, find out how long you've had them for, and divide it through to find the average. If you've had 2 credit cards open for 5 years and 1 credit card open for 2 years, that's 12 years in total over 3 credit cards. So your average age of accounts is 4 years. Now, if you see a juicy new sign-up bonus and you apply for that credit card, now you have 4 credit cards. Your total age is still 12 years since this credit card is new, so now your average age of accounts is 3 years. Obviously, the longer your credit history, the better. Issuers like to see the fact that you have a long track record, multiple years worth of paying all your bills on time. But this factor, which accounts for 15% of your credit score, isn't really something that you can actively control. Basically, as long as you hold on to your credit cards and pay all your bills on time, the average age of accounts will increment slowly every single month. So as time goes by, your average age of accounts slowly improves, thus causing your overall credit score to also slowly improve as your credit history builds and builds. Recent inquiries, 10% of your overall credit score, and basically it works like this. Every time you apply for a new credit card, a new mortgage, a car loan, whatever, the issuer doesn't know you. The issuer doesn't know who you are. The issuer doesn't know how much of an upstanding citizen you are, how likely you are to pay your bills. So they go and ask the credit bureau, who has compiled all this information on you, to help them make their decision. This act of asking the credit bureau is known as a credit inquiry. And every time an issuer makes an inquiry about you, the bureau takes a note of it and keeps a log of how many inquiries you've gotten. Now, other issuers can see this list of inquiries you've gotten. And if they see too many inquiries, it kind of looks like you're asking everybody in town to lend you some money. The term is called credit seeking, and it looks like you're applying for credit left, right, and center because you're in desperate straits and you're desperately trying to get somebody to lend you money. Of course, you might actually be applying for credit cards left, right, and center because you're trying to earn the sign-up bonuses to book a trip, but they don't know that. So all of this is to say that the fewer recent inquiries you have, the better your credit score. Now, obviously, recent inquiries accounts for 10% of your credit score, and this is the big one that does get affected when you make a new credit card application. Whenever you apply for credit, the inquiry shows up on your report, and that does have a small temporary negative impact on your credit score. Okay, so that's 4 out of the 5 factors that we've talked about. Last one. The last 10% of your score is known as credit types or credit mix. Basically, issuers would prefer to see a diverse range of credit products in your credit file. So not just having credit cards, but also if you have a mortgage, if you have a car loan, if you have a line of credit. Issuers basically want to see that you're able to handle a diverse range of products. So the more types of credit products you have, the stronger your score will be in this area. Nevertheless, this factor tends to be relatively minor for most people, and it shouldn't really make a difference standards in terms of whether you get approved or not, but you should know about it. It's worth mentioning for completeness' sake. Credit mix, credit types, 10% of your score. Okay, so let's put everything together now. What happens when you apply for a new credit card? Your 15% in length of credit history will decrease slightly because you've just acquired a new credit account, and that lowers the average age of accounts. And the 10% that makes up recent inquiries also takes a temporary hit because in applying for a new credit card, you've taken on a new inquiry on your credit report. In practical terms, what this usually means is a 5 to 10 point drop in your credit score. But again, remember, that's a temporary impact. And also more importantly, remember that 65% of your credit score is completely within your control. As you use your cards responsibly over time, as you pay your bills on time, as you maintain a reasonable utilization on time, your credit score will recover from that temporary dip. In fact, because opening new credit cards and collecting the sign-up bonus points requires such strong financial discipline, many people who do this eventually end up seeing their credit score rise to the high 700s or even mid 800s. One of the best ways to monitor and check your credit score here in Canada is creditkarma.ca, and I'll bring you to check out mine. You can see that the score is very stable in the high 700s. You can see all these credit card accounts I've opened over the years, both open and closed, and you can see all the inquiries I've gotten. And despite doing this for, almost 5 years now, I haven't seen any negative impact to my credit score at all. So it just goes to show you that earning points through credit cards, it does not ruin your credit score or even come close to doing so if you're doing things right. As long as you are paying off your bills on time and handling the credit you've been given responsibly, you can go through all the good credit cards out there, claim the sign-up bonuses, use the points, book your trips, and maintain a very, very good credit score. Now that you've been armed with this knowledge, you can go out there and start taking action. And in the future videos, we'll be talking about exactly what to do. I hope you learned something from this video. I hope you understood better how your credit score works. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you're subscribed to the Prince of Travel YouTube channel. Just click the subscribe button below the video. Now I'll turn it over to you. Do you check your credit score every now and then? Have you applied for credit cards before? And what has been the impact to your credit score? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.